Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to react to Arkansas' season-ending loss to UConn in the NCAA tournament. Not a great night for the Razorbacks. 88-65 was the final in Connecticut's favor. And Blake, boy, did the Huskies look good or what?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we said coming in, so, I leaned on the must bust magic for maybe another trip to the Elite Eight, but we both said this is just this was a tougher matchup than Kansas was, and you can throw the seeding out and all that. This was just a team that Arkansas would have had to have played the perfect game, and I'm going to be honest with you, had Arkansas played the perfect game, I still don't know that they would have won, because that UConn team, and I texted you this. I think UConn right now is, I mean, like, I don't know, I hesitate to go this far with it, but like, I think they're may be the best team
Right in the
left.
tournament.
I mean, they may be, and you could say, well, Alabama, and I get it, but like, those two teams played earlier in the season. They both evolved since then, but that UConn team that we saw for the majority of that game tonight, until basically they just sort of had to leave, take their foot off the gas. I mean, that was probably the best team I've seen. And if you remember, go back early in the season, I think it was after that game against Alabama. We talked about that game, and I said, I don't remember if it was Kansas or Houston or Purdue or whoever, but I said, I don't know what everyone else sees, but like, that's the best team I've seen so far in UConn. And we kept thinking that up until about the end of December, and then of course they hit that stretch where they lost 5 of 6, or what was that, maybe 6 of 8, something like that. And then you started re-questioning. You're like, oh well, I don't know about that anymore. But they've shown now that they can absolutely get back to that point, and if not, be even better. And so that's a scary thing, I think, for the rest of the teams that are left, because I was just, yes, I had one eye on the Kansas State Michigan State game. I feel like we should probably better spend our time talking about that game, but we're in an SEC channel, and there's not an SEC team in there unless one of those eventually join, which everyone else is, I guess. We could become Southeastern 84 or something eventually. But I mean, I would say, like, I kept watching. Like, I know a lot of people probably turned the game off, but like, I kept watching just because I wanted to see, how good UConn could be on the next possession and the next possession. And you notice that most of this talk is about UConn, because this was absolutely about UConn. Arkansas, was going to have to play a great game. And what have we said all season, Chris? The problem with Arkansas is you cannot afford to sort of put yourself in that kind of hole, especially against this kind of team, because you just don't shoot it well enough to work your way out of it. And when they got down big early, I think it was very clear that this was just not going to be a game that was going to go in Arkansas's favor, because they would have had to shoot their way back into it. And this team's just not, they just haven't been able to do that this season. So,
yeah, what UConn shot, I think 61% the first half, and didn't really cool off a lot in the second.
No, I mean, what they shot 57% for the game. Made 9 threes, converted 81% of their free throws. In all honesty, like we said, I just, the teams we mentioned were the teams you like in this kind of tournament are the ones that are just so well rounded and don't really have anything that just is so glaring that if they aren't on in this area, well, that's going to get them beat, right? Like with Arkansas, you could kind of point in that area. You could say, again, if Arkansas has to be in a situation where they have to shoot their way, out of a double digit, deficit, those kind of things, then they're probably in trouble. And just all those little different scenarios. Like with UConn, what would it even be right now with the way they're playing? What would we even say? Like, this is the one thing you can attack on UConn. I haven't seen it so far in this tournament. And like I said, in hindsight, I probably should have went against the must bust magic, and just kind of went with the bracket as I had it, which I think I had Gonzaga and UConn in the Elite Eight. But yeah, like, they were just, that's it. That's the difference is, you get a team like UConn that's playing that well, and they're also, just finding weaknesses to exploit with Arkansas. And when UConn was shooting threes, they're getting long rebounds on the missed threes. we said what? They're very physical, right? That game played out exactly the way I think the physicality, there was a lot of physicality early in that game, and both sides, but UConn just they were not backing down from anything, and you know again we could go on and on and on about all the things UConn did well in that game, but for Arkansas, I just think it was again it was going to take the perfect game, and I still don't know even with the perfect game against this team with the way they were playing. Yes, you could say Arkansas helped them out a little bit just because there were some things that UConn they hit shots like they hit outside shots that always helps. Um, but I don't know that there's a team left in the field that was going to beat UConn on this night with the way that they were playing. That I just thought they were that good. So
Yeah, I mean, not much left to say when it's a 23-point blowout.
well,
Just some stuff from the
it
box
wasn't that
score.
close, like it didn't
Yeah.
really feel like it was even that close at times. So
What was it, 15 at half?
I don't remember, something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
17.
58% to 32% shooting percentage, 81% from the foul line for UConn. Arkansas didn't shoot poorly. Rebounding 43-31. I mean, it just was just a box score domination, on top of everything else. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, sorry to jump back in, but I just think it was. I mean, it
there's
was
just not a
going
lot to say when it's that lopsided
well.
and it's that over that quickly.
No. But my point is just more of it was one of those things where I think it's not just looking the made shots certainly helped, but like I think you saw UConn again when you get in these kind of matchups, it's what can you do to sort of exploit the weakness of the other team, and I think there's just UConn put themselves right from the tip in position to take advantage of some of those things that Arkansas has struggled with at times this season. And it's like we talk about how like every possession counts. I know some people think that's cliche, but it's the difference in going for a steal if you're Arkansas, right? And then ultimately you don't get the steal, and that winds up as a made 3-pointer for UConn, and the lead just extends, an extra 3 points. Or on the other end, let's say that happens, right? Then you come down on the other end. Well, we're down whatever 8, 10. I'm just giving you a hypothetical scenario, which probably played out in this game, but I don't remember the specifics. But it's like then you go down on the other end and you take a three and you miss it. Well, that's not a great possession for you as a team that can't shoot threes well. So then UConn gets the ball and they go down and take it. Like it just that's how it kind of gets out of control against a team like this. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know what else to say. Like UConn was just simply the better team, and I don't know that was really ever in doubt after about the first 10 or so minutes of that game.
Yeah. I know we need to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor here. I want to get that. And of course, I want to get your final thoughts on Arkansas's season and maybe where this is headed next.
Yep, Bearded Iris. We keep talking about them. They are our sponsor here at Southeastern 14. We did a live show there a couple weeks ago. Chris and I were sitting over there in the dark because we forgot our light, and it was quite an experience. But we had a fun time at Bearded Iris, and yes, it's just a great place. Again, Nashville's home for beer that is unapologetically itself. Kind of reminds me of Chris, in all honesty. That's kind of what I describe Chris as. Although Chris is not fun to drink, but Bearded Iris is
No.
a great place to hang out at. Like we talked about before, they just got all kinds of stuff. IPAs, they've got just all sorts of stuff. They got a new hard seltzer there. So just a lot of great stuff that Bearded Iris presents to the fine folks who visit their establishments, and we appreciate them for all their support here on the channel. And so be sure to check them out. They got a couple locations in Nashville, the Sylvan Supply location, the one we were at for the live show. They've also got one, I think, in Germantown near downtown. So you can check that out there if you are in the Nashville area.
Well, we did not get unapologetically himself, Eric Musselman, tonight, which would have been shirtless at the end of the game.
No, you didn't get us shirtless either. So
no, it could have happened.
That was not going to happen.
Not tonight. Not tonight.
Happen.
But yeah, I mean, look, he'll do this next year with a different group of guys. He'll hit the portal. He'll land some dudes there. He'll bring in high school studs, and there's decent chance this time next year we're talking about Arkansas because that's just where this program is right now.
Yeah, and like I said, we will get into more kind of. I plan on doing like a state of the program, sort of like we did with football after the full tournament is over, and that's kind of a good place to sort of look back, I think, and really reflect on as a team. But in the moment, yeah, I mean, you know, I think getting to the Sweet 16, there will be some people who will look at this and say, you know, for how many ups and downs there were this season, that's probably about as good as we. I mean, you knocked off the defending national champion, you got to the Sweet 16 for a team that was so up and down. Um, maybe that's
Like
kind
kind
of
of
what the ceiling.
appropriate outcome.
Yeah, and like maybe that's just what the ceiling was going to be. Like I said, it. I think you could have had fun, like I did, just with the trend of, man, like, can they really get to a third straight Elite Eight? And listen, they put themselves in a position to do that. Like they put themselves in the game to where you know it was going to be 40 minutes away from getting to a third straight Elite Eight. Now, obviously, it didn't happen. They ran into just an absolute buzzsaw in UConn, and so I think if you look at it from that standpoint, given that you never really had the team that you thought you were going to have, um, going back all the way to November, I think the team we thought Arkansas was going to be, it wound up being two pieces short of that. The Brazil injury, and then the fact that Nick Smith really didn't start playing until what? End of January, or excuse me, mid-February, something like that. So if you take that into account, and here's something I was thinking about too quickly in this game. It's like, if you really think about it, right? Like Nick Smith has played how many games this season? Like not a ton. So what do coaches use the non-conference for? They use the non-conference to build
Gel.
the chemistry, to get everyone kind of acclimated to what you're going to see. But like it's almost like he stepped in into like, the non-conference total of games, if that makes sense. Like, he's played that many games this season, and yet you're pretty much doing it against, the best teams you're going to face because you're in tournament settings and those kind of things. So I just think all that combined, this was never probably going to be the team that we thought it could be after Maui. And when you just consider the personnel, you didn't have kind of the team we thought they were going to have the entire season. You never really got that. And so, as we've talked about many times, that led to sort of a very sort of, I don't want to say a shorter rotation, but it wasn't the rotation you were expecting. And at times that inconsistency really hurt them. And they just, I think that's probably the best way to, like, they just didn't have the ceiling that I think they would have had, right? If they would have had Nick Smith the entire season, maybe he's a little more acclimated. If they had Brazil, like, think about this game, right? I don't know if they win this game with Brazil, but obviously it's different because he is someone that had size. He is someone that could do so
Yeah.
many things that they just, I don't think, had consistently. So,
Yeah, I mean, the best version of them was that around Thanksgiving version before everybody got hurt, and they hadn't had time to gel yet, but they looked pretty dang good
yeah.
even without it. And unfortunately, that's just November's not when you want to be the best version of yourself. And again, that's not anybody's fault really. It's just the way it happened because of all those things. And I think that was the story of their season.
Well, look, Chris, if they had one guy that could shoot the ball, but we could say that about so many SEC teams, if they just had one guy that just consistently came out and made four threes or something in a game, right? And that's hard to do, but like that, I think was just an area that it was always going to take the right matchup, especially when you got into the tournament setting. And again, so I think if you look at it from that standpoint, maybe you overachieved a little bit because you did run into a number one seed as an 8 seed and win that game, knowing that there were always some of those deficiencies that we talked about it, and most of it was just a shooting type thing. And maybe you didn't have the depth you expected to have overall. And so when you combine those things together, we say this every year, and that's why you know how this goes when people ask us like, "What are your Final Four picks before the season starts?" I'm like, I can't possibly tell you that because I need to see the bracket first. And this was sort of the ultimate case of we thought Arkansas was in a pretty good spot against Illinois. Obviously, I thought that they matched up better with Kansas than most people probably expected. But, it just turned out they just ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. And that's what happens in this tournament. Purdue ran into the wrong team at the wrong time in Fairleigh Dickinson. Arizona ran into the wrong team at the wrong time in Princeton, and so forth. And this was just, yeah. So I think there's probably mixed feelings. Arkansas fans, I know you guys can chime in the comments and let us know what you think kind of of the season as a whole. But I think I think you'll see some mixed feelings on just kind of what maybe because I think that you would only have that if you go back to November and you kind of stayed in that same mode. But I think as the season progressed, I think you realized that this was just, they weren't going to probably get back to being the team they were before the Brazil injury, and just not having Smith and kind of trying to build that chemistry on the fly late in the season. And it's just usually not something that consistently is easy to do. So I think getting to the Sweet 16, with all that said, I mean, how many other teams, Chris, in the SEC have got to the Sweet 16 or beyond 3 straight seasons? Like, it's a pretty good accomplishment no matter what, right? So
Kentucky would take that right now.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think you always keep that in mind too. It's hard to do in this era, and they have gotten to the second weekend 3 straight years, and at least the Sweet 16, back-to-back Elite Eights. So sour note with how the game played out, but I think overall there were probably always going to be some limitations just based on the injuries and availability of some of your better players. So
yeah. Well, basketball's over for Arkansas, but guess what? Baseball's not. We will have you covered in baseball, basketball, football for Arkansas and all the other teams for that matter. Best way to catch our stuff, hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. It's just like a follow. And if you like the video, hit the like button. That helps our analytics.
One more thing, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
By the way, if UConn keeps playing like this, we might have to expand Southeastern 14 into a special UConn basketball playlist, because that kind of basketball, man, it's fun to watch. So I just want to again give props to UConn. I know the UConn fans will be here as well in the comments.
Yes,
I'm well aware, but I don't want to. I want to make that very they. Whew, boy, I think I may have to I think they can win the whole thing.
Goodness,
I don't think there's any doubt at this point. So
we'll
see.
If you didn't see our preview video, I said my bracket before the tournament was
you had them in the championship.
Alabama, Duke, Texas, and UConn, with UConn and Bama in the title game. I'm starting to wonder if I picked the wrong team. So
well, I don't think you're alone in that. I had UConn in the Zags, but boy, I think I'd like to place that. See if you're a bettor out there. We're not professional bettors. I would go find some UConn future bets on the national championship, and I don't know what that number is right now, but it's probably worth taking a shot out after these 3 performances they've had to start this tournament. So, props to UConn.
Props to UConn indeed. Thank you for watching our channel. He is Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. We'll have another one coming up tonight when the FAU Tennessee game is done.
Maybe that game may not be done till midnight at this rate. So.
That's true. Well, if it's midnight, we'll be here at midnight, Blake. You know us. Yes. Whenever that ends, we'll have that one covered too. Watch that one too. Thank you for watching this one. We're Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris.